Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel today for another review. Because Cam and I are getting ready to jump into our review of the new MCU project, the latest and greatest in the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which you can check out in theaters May 5th. We got a chance to check it out. The world premiere last night. So we took a little time to let it marinate, to let the feelings sort of, I don't know, either resolve or still sit there, whatever it may be for you. But nonetheless, we did have a night's sleep to kind of think about it. And so now we're here with our review on it. And we're going to start off right with that, Cam. Now, had time to think about it. How you feeling about the film, and had your feelings change overnight?
After I kind of let things settle in, of course, once I first saw the film, my initial reaction was it was amazing, right? And I think I actually had a dream about it, at last night, to be honest with you. Like, I submerged myself so deeply into the context that we watched that I dreamed about it last night. And that's how much it resonated with me, to be honest with you. So I will say, first off, amazing film. I think I am happy with how it ended and how things took place. I feel like there was no better way to close a chapter in the Marvel universe and simultaneously open up new doors for people to explore as well.
Well said, well said. Yeah, same for me, man. I think last night I was definitely almost on the sugar rush. I loved the film, and I think it was an amazing film. And folks are going to want to ask, was it my favorite of the three? I did love this one, as I think it was the best product of the three, but the first one was so magical in what it did in terms of instating these characters into the MCU that can never be topped. Definitely. But now, a day or a night's rest of letting this sit, I am very satisfied as well too. I think there was a lot of questions going into this film. What would happen? What was the fate of these characters? What was the vision going forward? And again, as a trilogy, how would they wrap this all up? And I gotta say, chef kiss to James Gunn. Just the elevation of the film from the first to the second to the holiday special to now, they just kept getting better and better. And I think he did all of the fans justice on how he completed this trilogy. This is a fantastic film. It's a must watch, from the production to the character work and the acting, to the story, to the comic book relevancy. I think they just nailed it. And I jokingly said this to you that I had my reservations about James Gunn and what he's doing at this DC Extended Universe, but with this, I am completely back on board. All things James Gunn, for all of his future projects, because of just his handling of this. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is a must watch, folks. You want to check it out again in theaters May 5th. Talking about the production here, Cam, what was some of your standout elements of it?
Yeah, honestly, I think the fighting scenes from the first 5 minutes of watching this movie, I was so surprised that we were just going full head of steam within the first 5 minutes. I thought, it was going to gradually build up, tell a little backstory here and there, but it was immediately an explosion of action-packed thrills, high stakes, and subtle comedy in there to kind of dwindle out a lot of those emotional moments. But I think they compiled so much information and so much story into 150 minutes, only 2 hours and a half type movie. So I have nothing bad to say about this so far. It was great.
Yeah, listen, James Gunn had a lot of story to tell.
Yeah.
And somehow, some way, he was able to do it all, because you're right. The first few minutes of this film was a story in itself. But I do agree. And just to kind of echo on the things you were saying, listen, the first few moments really set the tone, really set the mood. And then the music came in as you expect, really setting the soundtrack for the entirety of the film. And that's where my point is going with the production. Is the score is fantastic. The soundtrack is fantastic. Each and every one of these Guardians of the Galaxy delivers a must have soundtrack. I'm absolutely adding this vinyl to cart, and you will not be let down. And it's even a story in its own, because like, you know, as the decades go by, we keep going into different eras of music. And this one,
Yeah.
you know, we get to a new era. And again, to kind of you know, remove spoilers from all of this. You know, you just like, oh, you know, we're here now.
Right.
And as a person who is a music connoisseur, yourself as a music producer, like, you like, yeah, I get the whole mood of why we got to this era and the significance of it. So, you know, the storytelling within the music, and I don't think they get enough credit. I know people love the soundtrack, but like the storytelling in the music itself is special. And
Yeah.
I really do love that. And I don't want to steal your point, and we did have a little initial conversation after we left the theaters. But you're right. You got to give hats off to the folks behind the
Yeah,
music in this.
definitely.
Like
They
they cashing them checks, you know.
they have to be at this point. Because like you said, the way they put together the score and the soundtrack, and honestly, standing on its own could be listened in the car on a vinyl. Like even if you weren't a moviegoer or a action seal seeker as far as
Yeah.
with the cinema, I
Yeah.
mean, alone, a lot of these films kind of resonate within our history as growing up, you know, listening to different music and soundtracks with our parents. So it's a little bit of everything for everybody, I think. And it honestly gets to teach a lot of the Gen Zs what music was before, you know.
Yeah. That's a
They're like,
point.
what is this? You know, I've never heard this song. Britney Spears has music, you know, so it's
Yeah.
crazy.
And I love how the characters kind of warm up to it as well too. And I
Right,
think that's got to
exactly.
be kind of metaphorical to maybe the millennials in terms of like, I
Right,
don't know who
yeah,
this is, but like, give it a try. They're giving it a
yeah,
try, so you should give it a try. You know,
exactly.
definitely take a look at the music department on IMDb. It's a list of names there, but totally tip my hat to them. But let's talk about the conflict of the film, where we do have Star-Lord still really dealing with the loss of Gamora. I would even go as far as saying he's battling his sobriety with that. And yes, we know Gamora is alive, but it's not his Gamora. And this Gamora that we have knows that she's not the Gamora that Star-Lord wants, and she's not buying into it. And then there is a threat. There's a danger that hits home right at Knowhere, where everybody's kind of settling in. That now puts Rocket's life in jeopardy. And if there's one thing about Peter, he's going to protect his best friend, and that stops him to no end to rally all of the Guardians to save Rocket's life. Where now they meet their new foe in I gotta just say, I'll talk about it in a second, but the High Evolutionary, who whole goal is to create the perfect species and the perfect society, which with his missions grants, you know, he has a past with Rocket, but also at the same time their past now catches up to each other, which creates the current conflict. So within this film, you have a timeline that's current, but then we're also getting that backstory of Rocket. So you're getting chops within scenes of seeing Rocket as a baby, the creation of Rocket, and everything that Rocket had to endure to become the Rocket that we know, which again has ties to the High Evolutionary. Couple of things I want to just quickly say is the High Evolutionary made his appearance at San Diego Comic-Con. I was right there. What an appearance. I mean, it left chills in the room. And Chukwudi Iwuji, the actor who plays the High Evolutionary, is completely fantastic in his role. Yeah. It's a different type of villain that we've seen in the MCU, and he goes about it in that way too. High IQ. His motives is to have a perfect society. So you know, it's not like a threat of like world domination, but he will stop at nothing to achieve this, even if it means resetting his plans over and over and over. But every scene, listen, this guy commands every scene with this sort of anger, this delivery within his speeches. The monologues are top tier. I mean, yeah, he has a power base for sure, and we'll see that. But like, I feel the power comes from his voice and his mind, and I think it's very special to kind of see a character like that. And then just to kind of talk a little bit about Rocket's story, we get Rocket's backstory, which is completely emotional. You will absolutely, if not shed a tear, be very close to shedding a tear. There were some parts that was extremely difficult for me to watch, but overall, talk about really getting the audience to feel for Rocket. And I do quote that Nebula did say Rocket's past, something he had never shared, was way more worse than anything that Thanos did to her. So like if you think about the threat of Thanos and what we know Thanos to be, and for Nebula to say that just tells you what the ride you're gonna go on with Rocket. So for you, Cam, when it comes down to the plot, the story, the comic book Easter eggs and nods, what was just your overall thoughts about it?
Yeah, I thought it was just a great job all around of adding little tiny small trinkets and kind of hat tipping moments to the original volume 1 and volume 2, where we see a couple Easter egg of previous characters that we probably would have not seen later on. A couple mirages or ghosts, if you will, of different characters that were really important to the beginning of building the Guardians in the first place. Like you said, the score was amazing, action packed. I know you were talking about earlier that not to steal your point, but you were talking about the one shot in the hallway where, you know, at the end of the movie of Guardians of the Galaxy, we can always depend on James Gunn to give us one of those epic hero fight scenes where they all kind of come together and they have that standalone pan around camera look where it's like, all right, they're here. You know what I'm saying? So that was probably like one of my favorite parts of the movie, but it honestly did not disappoint from beginning to end.
Yeah, I'm taking my point back and saying like, yeah, listen, this and again, I've said this a couple of times now. I cannot confirm if this is legitly a one shot, but if it is, this is one of the greatest one shots of all times. The team up scenes, which we all love to eat up in every MCU films. There's one towards the end of this film in a hallway scene where the Guardians come together, and I mean, listen, this right here, this scene right here alone is worth the movie watch. And it's fantastic, and just the panning shots, the up close and very sentiment and very like personable shots that we get from the emotions, from the fight choreography. It's top tier, you know. And while I did absolutely love the third act of this film, which really brings this film home, there's still one more scene that follows this that adds an exclamation point where we get another team up scene of the Guardians, which, yeah, as you say, James Gunn, he makes sure that he gives the audience what they want, and it's a fantastic scene. Another thing, kind of talk about the comic book relevancy. Again, we get to learn about Rocket's past, and I don't want to steal your point, but just talking about the you know, when we talk about Rocket's past, these other characters that you may be familiar with in the comics. What was just your thoughts about seeing some of these folks straight out of the comics on the screen?
I thought it was pretty fresh for them to be able to bring not only the old characters into the movie, but kind of add more to the personalities of a lot of these characters that we might not have known. You know, like a lot of the characters, we either see them as strong or we see them as smart, or they can do one thing, but they realize as they get to know each other further into the film that there's more to them than really what meets the eye. And I love that about them is just adding more depth to the characters that we actually fell in love with from the first volume 1 to volume 2. The Easter eggs that we talk about that we see throughout the movie and also towards the end, that gives us an idea of where this whole group team up is going in the future, I think is great. You were talking earlier about somebody you were looking for that, you know, wasn't there. So I just hope, you know, that this team just keeps building and we'll see more going into the next phase of the MCU.
Yeah, I try to lead you into a point. I think you didn't touch on it, but two things. Yeah, you know, from 3 films, I absolutely was holding out for some particular characters to show up. And although certain characters didn't, I think, as you mentioned, there's definitely possibilities for future stories for these characters to be introduced, but also still leaves opportunity for the Guardians to have some relevancy in it. Which, you know, again, not to give any spoilers, but like, you know, again, what's the fate of the Guardians going forward? You will get the answers to that in watching the film. You will absolutely know where everybody's story either ends or does it continue to go. You get all of those answers in that. But yeah, going back to like baby Groot, baby Rocket, you know, meeting some of these other characters that we've seen where Rocket's backstory is just completely emotional. And again, I said this, and I'll just say it quickly. I don't want anyone to elaborate on it, but like when you talk about the animal cruelty that this film has to portray in this film about everything that Rocket goes through, it's completely hard to watch. But yeah, it makes you just feel for Rocket even more and understand just overall why and how he becomes the Rocket that we know to be from all of the other films here. But with that, though, like I said, you meet and again, the other thing about the animal cruelty thing, just in case you don't know, I mean, again, they're using earth animals here. So you're going to see an otter, you're going to see a rabbit, you're going to see a seal. A seal?
Walrus.
Thank you. Yeah, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, no, you're right there.
Which these characters come fresh out of the comics here. A little bit different, but like fresh out of the comics. And I do love just how Alice was just fantastic, by the way. Completely grabs you at the heart, and their relationship that they have is truly special. But with that, I say like the film does a really good job in balancing the pace and the mood in this film, because while that gets very deep and emotional, you do get a lot of humor and with comedy with the script and the mannerisms and banters from some of these characters. I mean, listen, Dave Bautista is fantastic. Drax is my favorite character. Him and Nebula has great scenes, but truly him and Mantis are like the stars for me when it comes down to the comedy. And then you got, good stuff with Rocket, and you got good stuff with Rocket overall. You got good stuff with Groot and Star-Lord. You get very interesting stuff with Gamora and Star-Lord. And again, this new Gamora is absolutely a new Gamora. And I think Zoe came in here making a very clear point that this is a different Gamora. This ain't the Gamora that y'all loved before. This is a different attitude, a different demeanor, and she makes sure that you can distinguish that very early in it. But like, again, a lot of good comedy, a lot of good mannerisms from one another and banter from one another. And so with all the heavy stuff, the comedy adds kind of pulls you from out of that. And then the action, which as you mentioned, and I'm ready to talk about finally the character I know all y'all want to talk about, in Adam Warlock. Listen, his introduction is fantastic. The cinematography attached to Adam Warlock, from all of the aerial shots and really up and close with his face, and just how they're panning these very close shots are just so dope. Like, you're on that ride with Adam Warlock. I would not be surprised if they take some of this footage from this film and then they make it they use it for sort of like some footage when you go to the Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster, like to kind of get you like excited while you're waiting in line. Yeah, because you feel like you're on a ride when you're watching some of these scenes.
Yeah, our seats weren't moving, but I could have sworn they were at some point. It was wild. Yeah.
But Adam Warlock was amazing. I'll be honest again and say, like, I wasn't really high on Will Poulter's casting, but like he shut me up. He really nailed it straight out of the comments. And again, if you know anything about Adam Warlock, and they make it very clear in this film that he's brought out of the cocoon pretty early. So he at times act like a child, but he's absolutely intelligent and he's absolutely powerful. And we see him sort of struggling with that at times. And it's hilarious. It's comical. And it's fresh out of the comments. I think Will did a fantastic job of that, and we'll see what happens with Adam Warlock in the future, because as an introduction, I'm all in for it. I've always been all in for Adam Warlock, but now I'm definitely like, okay.
I mean, it makes a lot more sense now that we have seen it and we've seen the product of what he can deliver. I think he did a great job. In my head, I kept thinking about We Are the Millers. Right.
Yes,
and then
exactly.
And I'm like, We Are the Millers guy. And then I'm looking at it and I'm watching him. And I'm like, no, that's not him. That's Adam Warlock now. That's the only person I'm gonna know him as after this. He completely nailed it, like you said. The childlike mannerisms that he had, because he is so technically young in an adult body, So can't wait to see how they develop his story going further, though.
Yeah. Cosmo was funny, and again, there's just a lot of just funny different things in the film. Like, the script was really that good. Again, Adam Warlock, the up close shots, anything aerial, even with the ships flying, all of it was good. The color was very good. I mean, it's Guardians of the Galaxy. You're going to get these vivid colors that's going to give you a thrill in its own. And I will say you may get just a little dizzy earlier because when you're on with Adam, again, it's like a roller coaster, and you're
Yeah,
not. Your seat may not be moving, but your eyes and everything else is going to feel like it is. So,
exactly.
hopefully, your equilibrium and your lack of vertigo holds you down, because it's like that, you know. And I think the only other thing I kind of really want to mention is, you know, again, this is Rocket's redemption story. So just be ready for that, man. Like, it's a great story with a lot of heart, a lot of feel good, a really good feel good moment to send us off on, because we love these characters, and these were characters, a group of misfits, as the synopsis says, that a lot of people had no clue who they were, just for us to, over the years, just make them household names and love them. And of course, we want them to stick around for a long time. And I think that no matter what is to come in the future with these characters, I think for the trilogy, including the holiday special, we can't complain here. This is 3 for 3, or if you want to say 4 for 4. In terms of the films, they're really that good, and this one just really gives us a nice send-off, a really good feel good send-off, with a mid-credit scene with some really cool stuff during the credits, and then even an after credit scene with a banging soundtrack the entire time. It's just that. What about you, man? Anything else you want to kind of add here?
Yeah. You guys just have to see it to believe it, to be honest with you. It is literally, if you like heartfelt moments, with your favorite group of misfits at high stakes with a dash of comedy, this is going to be the film for you. So definitely take the time to check it out.
Yeah, and in the comedy, you're gonna get this running joke of what type of animal Rocket is the entire time. You can expect
I know. And the ending, not to spoil it, is so fitting for, you know, this whole thing we've been building up since volume 1, you know.
Yeah. I know for me, as being introduced to this character in the comics, I was kind of like, are we ever going to?
I know. Is that ever gonna be what we're gonna
or
call
like, am
him?
I tripping?
No.
Like, all those books I read, like, am I tripping, or like there's something like kind of missing here?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, I listen, they handle it just like how I'm not even gonna try to spoil this, but just like how Godzilla versus that other person, how they handled that other person and that other person's issue. So if you could put all that together, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. But fantastic movie, folks. Just be ready for it. And also, James Gunn bring all of his homies. Anybody who's ever worked with James Gunn is in this film. I just want to mention that.
Yep.
But 3 for 3 here. But yep, check out Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 coming to theaters May 5th. It is a must watch. Fantastic work from everybody involved. I just want to give them a shout out, because who knows when the next time, or if the next time we see them, anybody from Chris, Zoe, Dave, Vin, Bradley, Karen, Pom, Elizabeth, Sylvester, Sly, all of these folks who has really gave us a good time over the years, man. We definitely appreciate it. You all check it out. Let us know in the comments once you do your thoughts about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and stick around for more reviews very soon. Thank you for watching, folks.